Life coaches.
You're my new favorite rabbi. Out of all the rabbis in the United States and all over the world, you're my favorite rabbi.
Thank you.
Hands down.
I
You
now
won the award. The commitment here, you coming here, being a part of this. Everybody's went down. You're the real rabbi.
thank you, David. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That compliment really coaches me, which is the subject of what I wanted to talk about, getting coached. Coaching. So, life coaches, all kinds of coaches, will tell you that the key to coaching.
I have a great joke for you.
All right, let's go for a joke. So go for it. Okay.
It's amazing. The time.
Man.
In Hebrew and English.
Okay, time's up. Next time. We're doing divrei Torah, man. What kind of joke time?
אבל לא נכשלתי מספיק בשביל להיות קואוצ'ר.
Oh, you actually like that one.
Say it in English. That's a great one.
Yeah, say it in English.
I made lots of mistakes in life. I haven't made enough mistakes to become a coach.
Yes.
You made enough mistakes to be a life
I
coach.
haven't made enough mistakes to become a life coach. Made lots of mistakes, but not enough mistakes to become a life
Not
coach.
enough to be a life coach.
I love it. So, getting back to the successful life coaches, the ones who have made it and have made so many mistakes. One of the top ones in the world said the following. He said, a lot depends on what you focus on, where your thoughts are. When your thoughts are at a certain thing, that really can change the way you feel, the way you think, the way you experience. And like for example, let's say someone comes late. You're expecting to meet someone, they come late. So you could say to yourself, they don't care about the meeting, they don't like me, no one likes me, I could go through your head. Or you could say, the truth might be that the person was preparing for the meeting and they got stuck or whatever. It could be a million things. But the story you say to yourself, the narrative that you give yourself about what's going on, really affects the way you feel. A lot of people are focused on how other people feel about them, and that could really change, make or break the way their life experience is. So, I want to look at a few words in this Torah portion which gives us some insight of what we should focus on, which will allow us to give a new color, a new song, a new start, a whole new way to feel and to look from a few words in this week's Torah portion which seem to be very peculiar. Before Jacob passes away, he gathers his children together and he says to them, I want to tell you what's going to happen when Mashiach will come. I want to tell you. Some say he wanted to tell them the moment Mashiach was going to come. Some say he wanted to tell them what's going to happen when Mashiach will come. But either way, it's interesting that he chose that to be his last words to his children. Why is that relevant right now? You would think he wants to give a message to his children. He would think about something that's more applicable, something that's more relevant. A lot of people, before they pass away, in addition to writing a will and dividing their estate, they also want to give a message to their children. They want their children to grow up and to build lives and to give them what they know about life so that their kids could have the most beautiful life. Some people, it's very heartbreaking to see sometimes in a will, a husband writes to his wife, I want you to get married after I die. Or sometimes a wife sometimes writes to her husband, I want you to get married, I want you to rebuild your life. You shouldn't just be broken and your life shouldn't stop right now. So there are also some very original people who are very creative. You're able to set up emails to come on the birthdays of all of the people in your life that you love. You can send them messages. Don't open this email, or this email will come in 10 years or 4 years or on their birthday, so that they're getting letters after the person has passed away, 5 years later.
That's cool.
So the content of these letters are full of love and devotion and blessing. And here Yaakov, he has his children together. And what does he talk to them about? He tells them, I want to tell you about the end of history. I want to tell you about the coming of Mashiach. What's the reason that Yaakov did this? It's an interesting subject, but why is it relevant now? How come he has to tell them about this right now? So the answer to this question is in the very first few verses of the Torah. The first few verses of the Torah, it says, God created the heaven and earth. Then it says, Eli, what's the next verse? Tova. The world was desolate and empty. There was darkness, and the Spirit of Hashem was hovering over the water. So the Talmud says that the word desolate refers to the exile the Jewish people later experienced. The first exile, the exile of the Babylonians, then the exile of Bohu. The word Vohu, which means empty, that refers to the exile of the Median exile, the story of Purim. The word darkness refers to the exile of the Greeks, and the words on the face of the deep refer to the present exile. So the next words, the Spirit of Hashem is on the water, that refers to the coming of Mashiach. Now, the question is, why in the very first verse of the Torah are we talking about exile and darkness and the coming of Mashiach? The world was created. You look at the creation of the world, you look at it and you think about it, it's amazing. You get very excited thinking about the amazing world that God made. That's what the first words of the Torah are about, God creating the world. And here, at the very first line about the creation, God starts talking about exile and Mashiach, and what does that mean? The answer is that before God made the world, before God made anything, He had a plan for creation. People think that there are problems, there'll be problems eventually in history, and the Hashem, He has a solution for the problems. If there will be problems, if there will be a problem, if there will be exile, if there will be hardship, so God says, I have an answer. The answer is I'll send Mashiach. But that's not really the way things are. Hashem has a plan, and the plan is that there should be the coming of Mashiach. And because Hashem has a plan for the coming of Mashiach, that's why there had to be darkness, that's why there had to be the exiles, and not just the exiles of the world. I mean, think about today, the present exile. We all heard today, Chol Islam, maybe some of you didn't hear, it's a terrorist attack in Israel, and there was, and each of us in ourselves, we have our own challenges, our own exiles, our own difficulties and problems, and sometimes, we sit down together, we eat and we smile. Sometimes we're not smiling so much. What's the point of it all? What's the point of the whole thing? Why does Hashem make the world? So, in order to be able to solve something, there has to first be a problem. In order for there to be satisfied by a lunch, you have to first be hungry. In order to be able to create something, there has to be an issue, and that's why you're creative to create this patent, this solution, this invention. And an invention is made because there's an issue. Because there is darkness, there needs to be light. Because there's darkness, you could see what the light is, you could see the value of light. So the whole point of the darkness, the whole point of creation, is that there should be the coming of Mashiach. The Hebrew word for world, olam, that word actually means concealment. The word world, what is the meaning of the word world? World means Hashem hiding Himself. That's what the word world means. So whenever you see darkness, Hashem says to you, there's issues, there's difficulty. You have to know that the reason why there's difficulty, the reason why there's darkness is because there's a plan. And the plan is that there should be a much greater light. That's the goal. The good news is that Hashem planted in every Jew a spark of Mashiach. It's not just something that there's once, when Mashiach will come, there'll be one man that God will send, there's a descendant of King David, and he will redeem the world. It's not really the truth. The truth is that every single one of us has a spark of Mashiach. There was a tzaddik, his name was the Kozhen Ser Magid. The Kozhen Ser Magid says like this, is Eitan Shahigi, he's going to pray mincha, and he's going to pray with lots of concentration, and he's going to sing a song afterwards, and it's going to talk from his soul. You should know, says the Kozhen Ser Magid, every inspiration comes from the spark of Mashiach in you. You see inspiration, it's because the spark of Mashiach in you. There's different versions of the prayer books, but according to one version, there's a prayer you say only on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and the holidays, when you open the ark. It's a very special time, it's a holiday, you open the ark, you say a special prayer. What do you say in that special prayer? You ask God like this, God, may the Spirit of God rest on me. May the spirit of counsel and wisdom and fear of God rest on me. What are you asking for? Those words you're saying are words about Mashiach. Now, why are you asking for that? That's something that Mashiach should ask for. Why are you asking that for yourself personally? So some have an issue with it, and they say it really doesn't make sense, but we're doing it already, we'll continue. The Rebbe says, no, it's something very deep over here. Every single one of us has a spark of Mashiach in us, And when we redeem that part of us, which is in exile, which is hidden, which isn't revealed, when we bring that out inside of us, we're creating part of redemption. We're creating part of the future. There's a big puzzle. The world is like one big puzzle, and you have as part of that puzzle. And when you reveal the spark of Mashiach in you, you are creating that part of the future that has to happen. You're creating the Geula. But it needs, in order for that to happen, you have to reveal that spark of Mashiach in you. In order for you to reveal that spark of Mashiach in you, so that's the idea of darkness. There's a pasuk. The pasuk says like this: the people who were sitting in darkness saw a great light. The Hasidic masters say, the very fact that you know you're in the darkness, that itself means you have a connection to light. What's the difference between someone who's absolutely nuts and someone who's not absolutely nuts? Any volunteers want to tell us what?
What did you say?
Difference between an absolute nut job and someone who's not absolutely nuts.
They don't know that they're absolutely
Oh,
nuts.
the one who's absolutely nuts thinks he's normal. The one who's not absolutely nuts, he has a little bit of normalcy in him. He knows he's something off in him. He knows he's a little.
You know which one you are.
Both?
So,
No, only one.
Tuesday,
hold on.
Monday, Tuesday.
It's like the movie Dumb and Dumber.
How does the spark
Damn.
Very good. How did the spark come out? Excellent. Okay.
And every Jew has it also?
Every single Jew has a spark of Hashem in him. And Eitan is asking the $1 million question, how do we bring this out? The Maimonides says that before you do anything, before you say anything, before you think anything, you should realize the world's on a scale, and your next word, your next thought, your next action could tip it. And why could it tip it? Why could you tip the scale? Because you have a part of Mashiach in you. You have a part in you that's meant to change the world. But how do you do it? So that verse I just quoted before, the people who are sitting in darkness saw great light. The first thing it tells us is, if they notice they're in the darkness, that means that they know there's something wrong. That means there's an issue. When you know there's an issue, that means the fact that you feel something that's not the way it's supposed to be, you feel there's something wrong, that means that you know where things are. That means you know that where you're going. You know that it's not perfect right now. The fact you know there's an issue, that itself does something. But it's not just that. The darkness is meant, it's the darkness specifically that allows us to create the greatest light. It's when Hashem challenges us and we see things around us that are very difficult. You know that Hashem is counting on you because He gave you something to be able to make a difference. Let's say this: a general doesn't send out a puny soldier, a puny little private, to fight a big war. And this is what Yaakov was telling his children. He said, I want you guys to know where you're going. I want you guys to know that you are the people that are going to change the world. You're going to be the ones that will cause there to be a time when there won't be any sickness or suffering or sadness, and everything's going to change. It's you guys who could do that. When you know where you're going, you know how much power you have, you know how much capability you have. So Yaakov was not just telling them about the future, he was transforming the present. He was telling them, not just telling them, but when it says in Chassidut that when Yaakov spoke to them, they were able to get a glimpse, and not just at that time, but for all of history, we're able to get a glimpse of the future. We're able to feel, we're able to tap into the future in the present. I'll tell you a story. Rabbi Meir Lau says this following story, unbelievable story. He said he's a Holocaust survivor, and he said that there was a certain rabbi who had a yeshiva, and before the war he told all the boys in the yeshiva they should all run away. Anyone who can run away should run away. Not everyone could run away, but everyone who could run away should run away. One of the boys in the yeshiva really loved his rabbi. He loved him so much, and he ran away, and he successfully survived, and the rabbi himself didn't. His daughter, the rabbi's daughter, the Rosh Yeshiva's daughter, she was very upset about the fact that God allowed her father to die, and the gruesome way that he died, through the Nazis. And she was so upset that she left all of Judaism, and she married someone not Jewish, and she had a non-Jewish child. This student... Sorry, correct. I stand corrected. A Jewish child, but not in a Jewish environment. Yeah. So, hot cup. So, this guy, here David, this guy loved his teacher so much that he couldn't stand the fact that his daughter left Judaism. So she moved to some city in Belgium, and he got her number somehow, and he called her up. Hi, I'm Yankel, you remember me? You know your dad's best student? You know, that was me. She hangs up. He calls up again, she hangs up. He keeps on trying to call, she hangs up. This guy must have felt the spark of Mashiach in him. Listen to what he does. Unbelievable. Listen, the guy does. A guy travels to the city that she lived in Belgium. I don't remember the name of the city. He travels to her city. He travels to her, gets a taxi, goes to their house, and comes to the house, and driver's waiting outside for him. He knocks on the door, and she opens the door, and immediately she recognizes that this is the guy who's calling her, and she slams the door. So what does he do? He knocks on the door again. She doesn't answer. Finally, she answers the door and she screams at him. Says, "What are you doing here? I'm not interested. I don't want to be religious. Leave me alone. I know why you're here. I'm not interested." She slams the door. What does he do? What do you do? He knocks again. He knocks again. She doesn't answer the door. He stands there knocking the door. He stands...
To the police.
That's how you got married? Whoa. Okay, anyway, so he knocks on the door. He knocks on the door. Well, it says marriage is when two halves of a soul connect, so it sounds like the spark of Mashiach. Anyways, listen. Wow. Anyway, so he knocks on the door. And he knocks there and is there for half an hour knocking the door. Finally, after half an hour, she opens the door again, and she screams and screams, but in the middle of screaming, she has to catch her breath. When she catches her breath, he says, "Ma'am, I'm here for a long time. It's hot outside. Can I just please have a glass of water?" So her neshama is aroused. Okay. We're not coming inside. No, not coming inside. She brings him a glass of water. He says, "Ma'am, I'm standing here for a long time. Can you please get me a chair?" So she says, "Listen, you can come in the house and sit down, but you're not going to talk to me about religion. Is that understood?" He says, okay. He comes in the house, he sits down, he says a bracha shakol niya b'dvaro on the drink, and he starts to drink, and he says, "I just want to know how your dad died. How did your dad die?" So she said that he was sitting in the synagogue, he was wearing his tefillin, the Nazis came in, and while he's wearing his tefillin, while he's praying, in the middle of all that, the Nazis came and they killed him and they tortured him. So he starts to cry, and she starts to cry. And then he gets up to go, and he gets to the door, and he says to her, "I just want you to know that you have the key." You have the key. You have the key.
Kelly.
You have the key. So she says, what key? Like, she's thinking maybe there's some kind of inheritance, there's a safe somewhere, there's something he knows about, is this a prize that she doesn't know about. What key? He starts walking away. She's running after him. What key? He said, "Listen, your father had a dream. His dream was that his children and grandchildren should be like him. They grow up in the path of God and the path of Torah. And Hitler, Yimach Shemo, also had a dream. They both had a dream. His dream was that there should be no Jews. All the Jews should assimilate. There shouldn't be any remnants of the Jewish people. And so there's a battle between these two dreams. These two dreams are very, very strong forces. But the key to who wins this war is in your hands." So he walks out of the house. He goes into the car, and he sees her by the window. She says, "Please wait." She comes out after a few minutes. She comes to him and she says, "Listen, I don't want my father to lose. I don't want my father to lose. I want my father to win. I have a son, I have a child, and I want my child, for me it's too late, but I want my child to go in the way that his grandfather would want him to go. I want you to take my child to Israel and bring him to Israel and you educate him and you bring him to the place of Torah." So he said, "I can't take your child to Israel by myself without someone. A child by himself, in Israel. But if you come with me for a few months and you stay there for a few months, I'll take your child." Rabbi Shalom Meir Lau said, "This boy, she did this. He went to Israel, and this boy is today a great tzaddik and rabbi in Yerushalayim." Rabbi Lau said the story, wow. And he knows this guy. He's a Holocaust survivor. He knows the story firsthand. That's the meaning of Yaakov speaking to his children and telling them about the coming of Mashiach. He's telling them that just like when God made the world, there was a plan, and the plan was that from the darkness itself we should transform it and make it into light. so too when you see darkness in yourself, you see a challenge in yourself, you should know what the purpose of that is. There's a verse we just said in Ashrei. We said these words. Listen to these words, David. Very important words. Say these words. God lets man know his strength and the glory and splendor of his sovereignty. Okay, it doesn't sound like English. The literal translation of the verse is God lets us know how great he is, how strong he is, and the glory of God. That's what the verse means. Baal Shem Tov says it's not what the verse means. The deeper meaning is God lets man know his strength, the strength of man. And why do you have to know your strength? Because if you know what capabilities you have, then you're able to do so much more. How does God let you know your strength? It's through a challenge. It's through the challenges specifically that you're able to discover what you have inside. Without the challenges, you wouldn't know. That's the meaning of the words we also say in our prayers. Sing to God a new song. A new song. What's the meaning of a new song? Sing to God a new song. Composers know this. Some real composers, not composers who are just doing this for the money, but a real composer, when he makes a song, it incorporates his past and his present and where he's going. And in every song, there's something of him, there's a piece of him in the song. There's a part of him in the song. So each of us is given a different path in life because Hashem wants us to create a song out of where we are. Each of us in a different way. Each of us has our own spark of Mashiach, our own spark of this puzzle, a part of this puzzle, and we all have to contribute to this. So the Hebrew word for evil inclination, the evil voice inside of us is Yetzer Hara, right? What's the name of God? In similar root, Yotzer, the creator. What's another word that has that same root? Yetzirah, which means to be creative. Because God gives us the Yetzer, because God gives us the evil inclination, that forces us to be creative and to be resourceful and to summon inner strength that we didn't know about, because if we didn't have Yetzirah, we didn't have the challenges, we wouldn't even know about the inner strength we have. So only because of that stuff inside of us, that evil, the not good stuff in us, are we able to discover the Or Gadol, the great light. That's the meaning of the question that God asks every soul after the soul returns to heaven. God asks every soul a couple of questions. Question number one is, do you do business honestly? Question number two, he asks you if you're involved in trying to have children. Now, the last question he asks you is, do you set time to study Torah? And then God asks you, did you expect the coming of Mashiach? Tzipita li-Yeshua. What tzipita li-Yeshua mean? Tzipita li-Yeshua doesn't just mean, did you think about the coming of Mashiach? Did you hope for the coming of Mashiach? Tzipita li-Yeshua doesn't mean did you believe in it. It means, did you look for it? In every experience that you had, that you went into this world, did you realize where these things were going? People say, in order to be able to live your life, you have to be able to know how to leave the world. To live in the world, you have to know how to leave the world. So when a person leaves the world, then they could say what their life meant. You look at it and say, this is what I want to accomplish in this world. That's what I want to be remembered by. That's what I want to accomplish. In a similar way, Yaakov, he told his children, I want you to know where you're going. I want you to know where all this is going. You, Reuven, you're going to go one place. Yehuda, you're going to go another place. But you know where all this is going? It's all going towards B'yat HaMashiach. That's how we, again, the discussion today about the life coaches. That a life coach tells you to focus on something, and when you focus on that thing, that's how you live. There was a great tzaddik, his name is Abhila Parcha. You may remember this story. I told this story about a little less than a year ago. Abhila Parcha, he lived in a town where there was a paritz. You know what a paritz is? Anyone a little bit of real estate was like a little king in those days. So, slumlord, something like that. So Abhila Parcha, he was once summoned by that little local king, and he says to him, hey, I heard you guys believe in the coming Mashiach. I heard you guys think you're going to go to Jerusalem someday. I want to tell you something. I have an army, and when that guy comes, you're not going to, no one's going. I'm in charge over here. When Mashiach comes, whoever that guy is, no one's going to Jerusalem. I'm going to stop you. What do you say about them apples? So Abhila Parcha said, the Mashiach that you won't believe in, I won't believe in either. The Mashiach that you don't believe in, I don't believe in either. Why? What's Mashiach mean? Mashiach is not about, they say these people met Mashiach. They asked him, how come you don't come? So you know what Mashiach said? You know I'm not coming? I heard that Yankel has an infestation of rats in his house. And he said, I need Mashiach to get rid of the rodents. Shlomo has an older daughter. He wants to find a shidduch for his daughter. He has Mashiach. I need Mashiach so that I should find a shidduch for my daughter. And Shmerel says, there's a leak in my roof. I need Mashiach to fix the leak in the roof. So Mashiach says, I'm not coming for all those things. As the Alter Rebbe once said, the Mashiach people are waiting for will never come. What's Mashiach really mean? Mashiach means a revelation of Hashem in the world. We're going to see how every word of Torah and every mitzvah and every act of kindness and every bracha, we're going to see the light that it brought to the world. We're going to see the revelation of Hashem in the world. Of course, all the issues will also stop. All the problems and all the hardship, that will be alleviated as well. But Yaakov was telling his children, well, guys, I want you to know, you know what you're about, you know life, you know where you're going. You're about a time of all smiles and happiness, and you're going to make that happen. And when you know who you are and where you're going, then the present is also different. The Ikar is, the main thing is not the present, the main thing is the future. We should make it happen right away. We should see Mashiach now.
Chazak Baruch, Chazak Baruch.